Welcome to Moss Marketing Mondays, aka the M3 Podcast. Brought to you by Moss Marketing Group, bringing you everything marketing every Monday. Stay tuned for marketing tips and tricks you can use today. The M3 Podcast, marketing knowledge to help you succeed. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the M3 Podcast. This week, we got Logan and Ricky on from the MMG Group. We got David Dale on.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Love to be here.
So, a lot of times we have people on the podcast that some people we've been friends with for a long time, some people we've just recently crossed paths, and you're somebody we have just recently crossed paths with.
Yeah,
and
exciting.
I feel like we kind of hit it off pretty quick.
Yeah.
First time we met.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the real struggle is like wearing a white shirt all day. I just thought about that, and I was like trying to keep coffee stains off this. I have a full-time job. I was like, why did I wear white today? But yeah, no, for sure, man. No, I think, we've kind of run with the same circle, just really have never gotten introduced to one another. So it's exciting to kind of be able to hang out and see what each other's doing and, introduce each other to the group and just kind of hang out, dude. Yeah, I think it's awesome. It's going to be a good fit. I'm a network guy.
And I feel like that was something when the first time we sat down, I could tell that really quickly. And I feel like there's some people that, I don't know, sometimes I struggle when I sit down with new people that they just want like all these things from me, like right out the gate. And I struggle with it.
Yeah.
And I'm also somebody that very much, I just want to help people.
Sure.
And if I just help people all the time in business, if I can give them some sort of tips that they can use in marketing, if they can get some sort of value point of sitting down with me.
Absolutely.
That I feel it changes the future so much. And that's playing a long game that at some point they may be with someone, they say, hey, if you need some insights on this is the person you go talk to.
Absolutely.
But I feel like there's so many people that they think every time they sit in front of somebody, they need to try to sell them something. I'm like, stop doing that.
Please stop that.
Just, if you're having cigars, just enjoy cigars. Talk about life. Talk about everything else. Enjoy it. Enjoy whatever you're going to do. But it's like, stop selling people.
Yeah. Sell yourself.
Yeah.
Sell yourself. Sell what you're doing. Sell your dream, right? Don't sell your product. That comes with just getting to know people, talking to people. They trust you. They like you. I like that guy. I want to work with that guy. Honestly, kind of like the natural organic growth that you've had. Like they like you. They like your team.
I don't know why.
Well, I don't either, but somebody does, right? You know what I'm saying, though? That's the kind of what is for me is like the new sales. That's kind of the way I've always been, though. I'm the same way you are. Like I'm total connections guy. Like, I know a lot of people. I connect people, and I'm happy just to be that guy. It's kind of like, if you have a situation where somebody always calls you for something. You got a guy that's like, oh, he'll probably know this, or he'll probably know that, or it's almost like a jack all trades a little bit, but at the same time, it's more like for connecting with people. Like, hey, do you know somebody that does this? I'm like, yeah, actually, I do. Just being in the business that I am. But same for you, right?
Yeah.
Like you know a lot of people. So I've always been super super cool with just the whole like connecting people. Like that's always made me happy to be able to put people in front of other people and no benefit, just be able to help them out.
Yeah, and I also think that brings a lot of power at the table too, in certain positions where I've had it more and more as we've progressed that people know how many individuals we have in our corner.
Sure.
And how many businesses we've partnered with, things like that, that it's now people come our direction that we have the power at the table. We have that leverage point where it's like they know that they want into our connection, they want into our circle. Yeah. And we've never asked those things of those people in our circle, but it's just knowing all of them.
Right.
And having that relationship is the power.
That's key.
So
yeah, no, I think that builds businesses across all platforms. I really do. If you sit down and try to think of like a carpenter, and you're like, oh, I got a guy that does this, or you try to sit down and think of somebody that works on cars, like, oh, heck, I got a guy that does this, right? And you trust them, so the vetting process is already done because they trust you, right? And that's kind of the whole point. So I've always been an advocate for that.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's definitely something I want to dive more into. But I want to start off when people jump on the podcast or listening to somebody, You're somebody new to them.
Yeah.
Let's start off on the David Dale story.
The story.
Where does it all begin?
That sounds like a movie, man.
That, it really does.
Yeah. Story.
The first
Dude, that could be a number one series on Netflix.
David Dale story. I got 2 first names. Should have been famous. Should have been a singer.
There's still time.
Right? There is still time. Yeah. I could have made it very well, though. Yeah. I thought about that. I was like, because I can sing a little bit, I can play guitar. I was like, I should have been on the road, like singing. And I was like, that'd have been bad for me.
I mean, I got a guitar. I just don't know how to play it.
No, I do. I can sing and everything else. But it's like one of those where I thought about it a lot, and I was like, I think God would put me in a different position because I would have been a total burnout. Like, there'd have been no way I would have ever made it. Like, I'd have been like a guy like, Papa Roach, where he just goes to the end of the earth and does all I can to be on stage, and it just wasn't going to work for me. I was like, but I definitely have dreams about it. I was like, I should have done this. But no, I mean, David Dale's story, let's see, man. So I got 3 little kids. I mean, it's kind of starting me out. I got 3 little kids. I got my oldest is Juliana. She's 8. My middle is Jessie June. She's 4. We call her little outlaw Jessie June. And I've got, and then I got my 2-year-old. Her name's Vivi. So that's kind of my whole world at the moment. Besides, work and stuff. But that's kind of my most important is to try to get those guys up and raise them right. But yeah, man. So I started out in the insurance business. I've been doing insurance for 20 years, something like that, 17, I think. Started in 06, whatever that ends up being, I think 17. This year. But yeah, I started out just as a producer, worked for a company called Combined Insurance. And
so you've always rocked out in the insurance world.
Yeah, pretty much. So I worked for my dad for a little bit. So he owns a construction company, D&D Custom Construction. Worked for him for just a little while, but I was like, man, I kind of want to do something different. Like, I didn't really see any fruit in it at the time. And my dad and I are like a lot of the same people. We're two chiefs. Yeah. And I'm not really an Indian kind of thing.
I understand that very much.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably do. I think we even talked about that a little bit, but it was one of those. I was just like, man, I can do something different. Like we can work together, but I can't work with you, kind of thing. And I wanted to just be friends with him versus him, being like my dad and like trying to be my boss at the same time. It just doesn't work. It's hard. There's families that do it, and hats off to them. But it just wasn't something that I could do. So started out doing that, and so I do all this insurance, obviously, but just kind of like what you said, man, like started the network game, man, like started really hard on just networking with people, going to client dinners, going to client, outings. I learned something that stuck with me a long time. Do you remember the show, Rev Run show that he had for a long time? You remember the Run DMC, right? Rev Run, the guy, this may be before your time. Run DMC, right? Walk This Way. Okay.
Throwing lobs over my head over here.
Play that on the background as we play. You'll get it. But he said something that just, dude, it burrowed in my brain, and it was, your network is your net worth. And when I heard that, I was like, man, that makes a lot of sense to me. And so that stuck with me. Is like, the bigger your network is, the bigger your net worth's going to be, right? And so I just continued to build my network, continue to get in front of good people. I do what I say I'm going to do. That's always kind of been one of those that I've always kept to the forefront, just to be, have integrity, to be honest, treat people the way they want to be treated. You don't want every deal, right? And I understand that, but never sacrifice integrity for who I want to be, who I am at the core. So did that for a long time, but I was, I kind of lived through like my whole party days. So I partied pretty hard through my 20s. I'm 39. I'll be 40 this year. But then I kind of came to a fork in the road, and as I met you, we've talked. Pretty much bought my business, took over ownership as of last year of 2023. So bought out my partner, took on our firm, and then basically just kind of have been running that, which has been different. Being a producer, the buck didn't stop with me before. It's been different to try to incorporate running a business, and I think you have a pretty good taste of what that's like.
Yeah,
it's different. It's an animal.
It's one of those things that I think in the beginning that I've told a lot of people this. I thought it was going to be pretty easy. Like, I thought it was going to be this just like,
I got this.
Yeah, I'm like,
I can do anything.
I've read a lot of books.
Yeah,
I've read a lot. Watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I was like, got this. And no one can prepare you for the different scenarios that are thrown at you every single day.
Right.
And it's like, I have no earthly idea what next week holds.
Right.
Like, it's just getting so comfortable with having no earthly idea what's about to come.
Sure.
But it's also, I think a lot of times we talk about it where business owners go into it and they take on this really hard fight. And the second they find like a comfortable state, that's where they live.
Yeah.
They find this comfortable state, and then it's like,
breathe.
They get a deep breath, and then it's like, I'm just going to stay right here.
Yep.
And I did it like for a little bit. Like I hit a spot that I was like, oh my God, like
I got this.
we have our head above water for the first time. Yeah. And I kind of backed off for a second. Now it's like, I feel like I've been like recharged at it. I'm like, that's not where we live.
No.
And it's just like figuring out though, that it's just uncharted waters every day. Just keep pressing the envelope, keep pushing.
Yeah.
And are all the answers you have, are they going to be correct? No. And I'll speak with everyone in the office all the time that I don't have somebody to go to get an answer. No, it ends at me. And it's like, when somebody's like, hey, I have this question. I'm like, when I have a question, there's nobody for me to go to.
Yeah.
To where it's like, there's going to be people that don't agree with my decision all the time. I don't even always agree with my decision. Yeah. But I'm like, I don't have a better option.
I got to run with it, though.
Yeah, I'm like, a decision has to be made. Mm-hmm. To where it's like, everyone's always good at throwing in the input.
Right.
But when the final hammer has to come down and the decision has to be made, somebody has to make it.
Right.
Good, bad, and different. And it's like, there's been a lot of times that I've like said, this is the direction we're going. I'm like, everyone thinks that like, just because you're the one in charge that you like have it all figured out.
Vision, right? Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm just thinking this is like, out of the 3 shitty options I have, this is the best one. I'm thinking
the least shitty option here.
But it's just like, just keep pushing it.
Yeah, it is.
And I think that's hard for a lot of people to understand. That
absolutely. They
think that just because you're at that position that like, everything, you have everything figured out. And it's like, no.
I think it's hard for a lot of people to admit that too, that they don't when they're in that position, because it feels like you should, right? Like you should be the one that, has all the answers in your employees' eyes and in your eyes. So it's hard to admit that. And that is one thing that is good to do.
But it's also, I think, getting the input of everybody. And you have 20 people, you're going to have 50% have the input of this, 50% of people are going to have this. And like the larger the scale it is, like the more people are going to disagree, but sometimes they can't see the whole picture either. Sometimes they may not know the back end financials of everything. They may not know everything that's taking place in a business.
Right.
And it's like, granted, I used to be that person, and like, kudos to my dad for putting up with me as long as he did when I was in the car business, because quite frankly, I was a shitty employee.
Yeah.
Like I didn't look at the whole picture all the time. Same. I had an idea and I wanted to be the chief, but I didn't have all the chief knowledge.
That's right.
To where it's like, I'm trying to be a chief in an Indian position.
Right.
And really all it really did was just, we butt heads all the time. Yeah. And I'm like, why can he not see it this way? But it's like, I didn't see the whole picture.
Right.
To where like his decisions he was making at the time was the best decision for everybody.
Right.
I was trying to make decisions for myself.
Right.
Which I was making decisions I agreed. I was making decisions out of just Dane's instant movement. It wasn't starting MMG was like what started like changing my mindset to like, you have to think differently to operate at that level. But I think it's also the network of people I started hanging around too.
Sure. You elevate yourself, right?
In the car business, I hung out with I had a good group of guys, but there was also other people I hung around that they all thought instant gratification, small moves. That was the conversations that were being had. There weren't high level conversations.
Right.
And as I got into MMG and I started getting around like true business owners, I'm like, there's a different level of thinking out there. Like my thinking process wasn't correct.
Going for the long ball.
Yeah. So it's after we started playing that long game, it was like crazy how fast just the day-to-day movement, you don't get so stressed out about those. I look at a decision, I'm like, does this matter in 7 days?
Right.
Most time you look at it, it's like 7 days, it's not probably even going to be on your plate.
No. Yeah. No, it's important. I mean, we run into, I think we kind of have the same mentality as far as that goes, like, high level success on sales. I'm sure that's how you were in the car game. Like it's all about just the sale. But if I could have the producer position back, I probably would take it back, honestly, because it's a lot easier, right? Yeah. And I sold a lot more insurance. I was able to actually generate a lot more because you are stuck in the business instead of working on the business. And so I'm trying to figure out how to work on the business and not be in the business, and that's the hard part. I think what I've noticed with you guys is you're trying to surround yourself by people that are smarter than you, and I think that's a real good piece of gold there, because if you could have people around you that are smarter, it makes your job a lot easier. And then you can be the vision. You can go out and try to figure out how to continue to keep that path of success. Because if you stay where you're at, stagnant, it's going backwards. Like, even keel is going the other direction. You got to be fighting to go forward for your people. It's not only for you now. You got, however many employees you guys have at this point, but same for me. Like, we got 9 people in the office, and I got to keep going for everybody else out there. Because if I'm not, then who else is? And so that's where I think it takes people the understanding of running a business. Even though you're green at it, it doesn't mean, you can still be good. I'm like a Steve Jobs. He was probably really bad at it for a long time, but he found to do something really, really good. Right. And he was a huge success, wildly successful. I'm sure there was people before him that said he sucked. Right. But, Wozniak, I think, was his right-hand guy. The guy was brilliant. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it can be done, and I think we limit ourselves in trying to think like, oh, I'm going to try to just do this a little bit here, a little bit there, instead of thinking like big picture. So there's a spot for somebody that keeps you grounded, and there's a spot for the guy that looks at the vision. And I think that's important. It's different probably a little bit with what you do versus what I do, but kind of on the same playing field. I mean,
yeah. And I think I know it's really cliche that everyone's like, work on your business, not in your business. And it's like I hear all this.
It's easy to say.
It's really easy to say. I love when people come our direction that have like 3 employees, and they're like, I need to be working more on my business, not in my business. I'm like, you don't have enough people to work on your business all the time. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
And I remember at that point,
you have 5 people.
Yeah.
Who's doing the work?
Who's doing the work? Like,
you are
the work. Yeah. Like, so it comes to a point like, I mean, we're like 20 people, and it's like the first time I'm ever really getting to like, the last 6 months is the first time I've started like working on the business, and it's not even full time yet.
Yeah.
It's like 30-40% of the time. And it's like, I get there's going to be that opening when that is the play, but it's also, I understand the workload that needs to be done every single day.
Right.
And the workload has to be done to move the needle.
That's right.
And I think sometimes people just get so like one direction on how they think that it's like, if they're going to just work on the business, their business is going to sink.
Yeah.
Like, what is the workload? Like, How do you divvy up that workload? Then, like, right now, we're very much in, like, the process side, the communication side. Like, what does, like, true development look like?
Right. Yeah, I mean, hey, your business is basically building other businesses. I mean, that is what it is. So you are the guy that works on other businesses.
It is.
So that's cool. So you have the inside track. So you should be able to have a straight streamline to just natural growth, right? So you should have.
You would think so. Right? You would think I had a lot of things figured out, but
yeah.
No, but it is funny because for the first 2 years of us being open, we sold marketing people, and I was like, that's something that is working on the business. That is something that is a business driver, and how important it was. And the funny thing is, we weren't doing it ourselves.
Sure.
Once we started implementing ourselves, it was like putting gas on the fire. It was crazy how fast things started changing. But when we're talking to businesses, like doing those things where having salespeople, having people that can actually implement change and actually most of the time, people are always looking at these different things in their business. I probably one of the most common mistakes I see is people doing all these things that there's brand development things. There's, at the end of the day, you have acquisition of work site, you have acquisition of employment.
Sure.
So a lot of our marketing, when they see the Taco Tuesdays, they see the Fit Check Fridays, they see the bus that we bought and we're painting it. That's more acquisition employment side, because we get 50 applicants a week that want to come work for us because it looks like it's so much fun.
Absolutely.
But then the acquisition of work and acquisition of new clients is running 15 grand a month in social ads. That number keeps going up. It keeps going up, but it makes it to where we have 5 date appointments in our office every single day.
That's great.
That it's like, that puts new deals with MMG, which continues to drive the financial side, which, I mean, you can do everything cool as you want, but if the financial side doesn't line up with it, then it doesn't work.
No, you got to make money.
So you have to make money. So it's like, a lot of times they're doing all these things for free, and it's like, profit's not a bad word.
No.
And if I sit at the table with somebody that doesn't allow us to make profit, it's not somebody I want to sit with, because I never ask for a discount from anybody we work with. Nope. If we're working with somebody that's like, oh, I'll discount down, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm paying full price.
Yeah. I want to pay for it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I want you to win. I don't want you to do it for free just because it's me.
Right.
When we buy vehicles, when we do whatever it is, like, I want people to make money.
Absolutely. That's
like,
point.
We partnered with
capitalism.
Yeah.
It's finest.
And it's, if I'm going to negotiate you down, you're negotiating me down, then we both just stripped each other of our profit. Why are we even working together?
What's the point?
All right. Yeah, and you want to work with people that are successful too. Like, you don't want to work with someone who's, concerned about $1,000 on a deal that they're doing with a friend in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
Friends are the easiest person I have giving money to.
Sure.
Like, I want my friends to win so bad.
Absolutely.
Like, I will pay extra.
Plenty of room at the top.
There
That's
is.
what people don't understand. Like, there's no platform up there where you're just like, you see all these people standing at the top, like, oh man, there doesn't look like there's a lot of room.
Yeah.
Dude, there's room for everybody. You just got to figure out a way to get there.
And they understand how to operate with one another.
That's right.
That it's like you see these like greedy people, and you see these people that want to be up there so bad, but they can't figure out how to get up to that spot. And I'm like, it's because you cut everyone's legs out from underneath them.
Yeah.
I go, all those people that would help you get there, you screw them.
Yeah.
I go,
And
so
you treat them like trash.
yeah. And I'm like, I look at it as, if I let everyone around us make money all the time, then guess what? It's going to come back and it's going to reciprocate back our direction, and we're going to get a win at some point.
Reciprocity.
Yes.
That's a friendship. That's a business deal.
Yeah.
You got to have it. If you don't have it, if I'm scratching your back and you're not scratching mine, well, that's not a very good relationship. That's not a friendship. That's not a business deal. None of that works.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. You got to have that back and forth reciprocity. So I think that's super important. And a lot of people miss that by trying to be the cheapest guy in the market, or trying to, like you said, give discounts because they're buddies or whatever else. And it's like, that's fine. But like, those are the people that you're supposed to rely on to get you there. Right. I mean, it's the same thing for the insurance business. Like, you don't get rich on your family, but you just treat everybody with the same respect, like they are your family. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, you're looking for the same respect that you give it. And we deal with people like that. We deal with general public, and it's just tough, man. It's a cutthroat business. I mean, because obviously insurance rates are through the roof. They suck at the end of the day. I've delivered multiple 100% rate increases on large schedules of buildings. And it's like, dude, I see it. I don't know how you can make money. But when you got 3 companies out there and they're like, hey, this is the best we can offer. There's only 3 people that do what you do, right? So you got, I insure a lot of the West Bottoms, the majority of the West Bottoms. And talking to that guy, like, I deliver him a 100% rate increase this year. And he's like, Dave, like, I shopped you with other companies and you're still the best. Like, so we just got to do it. Well, I mean, think about that. Like, you're going from paying $100,000 a year to $200,000 a year. That's pretty tough.
And I look at it too as there's always going to be a race to the bottom in every industry.
Yeah.
Like, the race to the bottom is a race that we've never entered.
Right.
And I see other companies get into it, and I watch their downfall before it ever even happens.
Sure.
And you watch them not be able to figure out these profit lines. They can't figure out how to get A players. It's because they have no money to pay fucking A players.
That's right.
And it's like they're burning the bridges all around trying to be the cheapest. And I think the market is wanting the cheapest, which market's not always deeming the cheapest. There are people out there that are looking for the cheapest option, but those people do not build the empires of business. It's when you start figuring out how to work with the people that truly want the best, it's half the people that do everything. Like, if I have the Windows 10 on my car, if I have like the guy that tends to attend my office and everything, I never even asked him how much it was.
You need your Windows 10.
I needed it done, and I know the guy, and I trust him, and it's like, and I have a couple guys that are like that now, but it's like, I have it in everything. Like, I don't even really ask how much things are.
Literally the exact same way.
Like, if you're in my circle, I'm just like, go for it, like, do it. And people are like, so it's crazy how many people are like, you don't ask how much it is. I'm like, I know him. They're going to shoot me square. I know it's probably going to be, I know he's better than everyone else, so I know he's going to be a little bit more expensive, but it's like, I know it's not going to be like 5 times the cost.
No. And if you have a problem, you go back to him and he fixes it.
Yeah. Or I say, hey, you know what? I paid him this time. If somebody does try to screw me on one deal, that one deal is not going to make or break me. But I will know that how that person runs and operates now.
Yeah. And so you probably won't be inclined to reference him.
Yeah.
Give him any business going forward.
So I look at it as just do people right. Do the right thing every single time. And like, those referrals come from all directions. And like,
that's right.
The way you run and operate with people speaks volumes.
Yep.
And it's like, if I work with someone and I don't negotiate with them, and I don't beat them down, then it's probably going to be reciprocated the same way, because they're going to see it. Because if somebody does have the balls at that point to then try to negotiate you down on the backside, I'm going to be like, yeah, you're definitely not somebody I want to work with.
I've always had the mindset, even like when I first started, it's like, I got to write every deal. I got to get every deal through the door. Like, how do I figure out how to get every deal? It's a numbers game. Like, how much can I throw against the wall and make it stick? But the longer I've been in business, it's like, you have to find a balance of people that are going to treat you right. Because at the end of the day, it does come down to numbers. But what it does come down to is, like, if they call me, I'm on my phone 24 hours a day. Like, you could literally call me at any point in time and I'm most likely going to answer. There's not a lot of people that I can say that are in my business that'll answer the phone all the time. And I think it's important because I know if they have a problem, they need me. Like, they're not calling me just to shoot the shit. Like, they're calling me because they have an issue, and I'm available for them. But then they try to cut me out on money, and I'm like, dude, I just, I don't really want to work that way. It's cool because I went to a convention we have this management system called Applied. Monster management system. It's a really cool story, actually. The lady started it in her basement. And so it's basically like a CRM. So like a management company that runs all of our whole platform. So it does our accounting, does everything. It's super boring, but it's really in depth. But I met a guy that really intrigued me. He has an agency that he has in 4 or 5 different states, but they have an AI program that will scrub the businesses he's looking for and scrub their website based on their core values. And I thought, dude, what a cool way to be able to run a business, is to go and know that by an AI, I can go scrub your website and make sure our core values line up with one another, and then prospect you to do business. I thought, dude, that's got to be, how cool is that? Because then they know right out of the gate, like, you're talking to people that you want to work with immediately.
Yeah.
And on a larger scale, right? Because I mean, obviously, if he's got somebody scrubbing AI, like websites all over the place, he does super high level, like, policies that are it's $250 to probably $1.5 million policies. So it makes sense. You got the money in it, you can do it. But that really hit me. I was like, I need to figure out a way to get that done. But he's got one gal that he uses now. She's overseas. I think she actually got her from like maybe Pakistan. I'm not sure exactly, but he was talking about bringing people from over there and just having them come work here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, because they're loyal, they're really good, they do awesome work. I mean, kind of some of the same work that you do, but it's mostly online.
Yeah,
not really marketing, but kind of tech people. But I just thought that was super cool, man. I was like, that's awesome. I got to try to get there. But
which we just had a podcast. What was last week? Last week, our podcast that we dropped was over all of our core values. And it's how we hire by them and how we fire by them. And then also it's the people we align with. Like, it's funny, when I used to meet with clients, it was like I had to try to sell Moss Market Group as fast as possible. Yes. It was like to work with us. And now it's like more of a vetting system for us. So like, do we want to work with this person, or is it just going to be a complete nightmare?
Yeah.
And like, our number one core value is extreme ownership. Like,
absolutely,
we live by, I've read all of Jocko's books. Like, it's something that if you can't own up to what you do in a day, like, it's always going to be excuses. It's always going to be something. And it's like, there's so many business owners that we'll sit with and they're like, well, economy's shit right now, and this is bad, and this is bad. There's the sky's purple, so I can't make money, and who knows what the excuse is. And it's like, we hear different ones every single day. And it's like, I know immediately when I start hearing those things, it's like, this is a business owner that's always going to struggle.
Always.
And like, we have enough successful business owners in our corner that our core values were built a lot off of the business owners that we have partnered with and the characteristics that they have shown over the years of us working with them. Of like, I feel like I've been as blessed and fortunate enough to see and have the opportunities that I've had because I've got to sit at those tables and learn from great business owners. And it's not somebody that's, this guru that I listen to on YouTube or something. Right. This is somebody I get to sit with, like Brent, and have cigars and whiskey and talk about things, and go pheasant hunt with him and learn about what it took to get to 70 people. Right. The mistakes that he made, the mistakes that I don't have to make, they can capitalize on years of time.
Right.
And it's looking at those characteristics that he looks for in people. And the same thing with a lot of these different, Corey with CP Excavating. He's somebody I talk to all the time on this kind of stuff. And it's just, he's so down to earth, and we can sit there and we can have drinks and we can have cigars or whatever it may be, and actually get true business insight from somebody that's done it on a localized level.
Sure.
From the employment side to the work side, to the acquisition work side, to the scale side, to all these different things, instead of just being like, hey, here's some cookie cutter coach that I found online that says I just need to think bigger than I normally do.
Right.
I'm like, cool. What are my actual like things that I can implement today, to move the needle forward? And I bring insight to those people also from a marketing aspect, how they can look at it differently, how they can capture more market share, how they can scale even faster where they're at with what we know. And then so it's like it goes both ways. Sure. And it's just, we have unlimited access to those people around us all day, every day.
I think it's huge that you touch on the extreme ownership, because I think that's what a lot of leaders are missing. They try to grow a business and they try to make it right. And they try to do, like you said, just work hard, but taking the ownership of owning your mistakes and not being afraid to apologize, because you're not gonna get it right every time, right? And people see that and they notice it and they're like, hey, you know what, this guy isn't perfect, because nobody is, right? Only Jesus Christ. But at the end of the day, like, you're trying to figure out how to make it better. And you made the position of what I noticed with what you're saying is you made the pivot early in business, because you guys, what, 4 years old?
Just at 4
years. Okay. So to make that pivot that early, to decide, you know what, hey, I'm not going to take every deal, because not every deal makes sense, but I am going to take the deals that I want to work with people, like, you know, and maybe it's for a couple of reasons. Maybe it's the reason of, you know, they got a good network, and totally fine. And maybe it's a deal of they make sense in what they do, and they have extreme ownership, and they're also just cool people to work with. Like, I think at the end of the day, like, and that's kind of what I've done. Like, I've always just tried to be like somebody decent to work with. Like, you're not going to catch me cussing anybody out. Like, that's not my gig.
Yeah.
Like, I don't lose my cool on anybody. Like, it takes me a long time to get there. I got a long fuse.
Which that's emotional control. And I mean, we talk about a lot, and what we do is like there's so many business owners out there, you see their fuse that's this big, and I'm like, you can't let emotion control your decisions. Absolutely. Day over day. I'm like, you're going to have, in a 7-day week, you're going to have 100 different problems that come your way on the low side, right, that you're sitting there making decisions about them. And if you let your emotions come into play, game over. Yeah. I'm like, and that was something that I'm going to say 4 years ago when I started this, I was a little more on the hot, like, shorter fuse side. Like,
but people get you, though. They get you because they know they got you.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was one of my deals. Once again,
when they can get your trigger,
yep,
they got you.
100%. That's the second you know that you could, I don't want to say control somebody, but you know that, like, where their buttons are, and you know how to press them.
It's control. It's exactly what it is. Manipulation.
And it's like, I looked at it where I saw the bigger players, that we have a lot of small business owners. We have a lot of really big business owners. So as we've progressed, like, my big thing was always like, what are the characteristics that this group of people hold that this group of people don't? And like, one of the biggest things was like the emotional control at that high level. It was like 9-day difference.
Oh, I can only imagine.
You're not going to see them be like, oh, this one client did blah, 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 yeah, fucked in, blah, 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 and just come unglued.
Right.
On the smaller business owner, you see that stuff all the time.
Sure.
They call you cussing up a storm at so-and-so, and I'm just like, their movement has become so large on the big business owner side that it's like, they look at those as just part of the game. All those things that are happening are just moves in the game that they've already accounted for happening.
Collateral damage.
Yeah.
Less, right.
It's something that they know 100% that that's coming. So it's not emotionally triggering them.
They've seen it.
Yeah.
And I don't think they take it personally either. It's like, you know, this is going to happen, but a small business owner hasn't been in those scenarios.
Well,
sorry, I was just going to say they still see it like on a smaller scale, like, you know, person to person basis, not like business to business basis. So,
yeah.
And I think one of the things that you talk a lot about is like the levels of like survival to, you know, like affluence to understanding the whole scale.
You follow Patrick Bet-David?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's like he talks about the survival state, which is like people that are just trying to survive, trying to make their house payment. Then you have the status level, which is less like, hey, now it's trying to keep up with Joneses. You got the house, you got the cars, which a lot of people live in status their whole lives.
Sure.
And then you get to freedom, which is like truly unlocking, like you truly own your time, which I think rarely people ever get to that position.
Right.
But then like overall, the very top is like purpose of life. And I think you have to go all the way up that pyramid to ever get to that purpose, which I think it's really hard to find a purpose when you can't even make your bills, when the roof over your head that's a problem all the time. Like when food is a problem, like, so then it's like you get to that status. And once again, same thing happens in business, happens in the personal life. Somebody gets that status level and they're like,
yeah, I
take a breath.
Yeah.
Like this now feels comfortable and they want to live in this comfortable state.
Right.
Which is status. and they never press outside of it to go find what true freedom looks like.
Right.
Because from the status to freedom is a risky play.
Oh, absolutely.
To figure out what that looks like isn't easy. And it's like, this is something we work on as a group in the office all the time, is like, I want people to find out what that purpose is.
Yeah. I think it's important to have people have to get out of their comfort zone. They have to do things that get them uncomfortable, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. Right.
Yep.
And that's what I think is most important. And that's how I've always lived my life. Like I'm a CrossFitter. Like it's that stuff's not hard. Like you're hitting red line a lot. You're about to pass out half the time you're doing workouts. But I think there's fruit in that, because you understand like where your body can go. Right. And it's the same thing in business. You're trying to figure out how to get out of the box. Like not only just work hard, but I want to figure out a way to work less and be smarter about how I do work and not work all the time. Like I'm not even a guy that works all the time. Like half the time I'm working 30 hours a week, man. Like I'm figuring out a way to maximize my profit and minimize my effort. Right. And I think that's the goal, is to try to figure out how to get your systems in play. Big businesses scale because they have amazing systems. Mm-hmm. They know how to scale by implementing a checklist, a reform of exactly how they do it. What's the recipe for success? And it starts small, but then it can scale because they have processes in place and that are pretty finite.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to watch that. But that's pretty much how I've always lived, man. It's just like figuring out a way to be uncomfortable. And I talk to people about it all the time. It's like, have conversations that most people don't want to have. So whatever that may be, like say you got a problem with one of these guys, pull them aside and have a conversation with them.
How many times we've almost went to fists here in this garage?
It's important though.
But
that's where truth growth is. That's where you find the gold is in conversations like that. You get to see what they're willing to go to and what you're willing to go to and how much you believe in it. Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. And there's not enough people in this world that have those conversations. They want to turn away from it. They want to run from it. They're scared. They don't like confrontation. That's not life. And you can never be successful if you're scared of conversation or scared to be able to confront somebody or scared to be able to tell them exactly how it really is, because you're just going to mask the problem and it's going to just blow up in your face later on anyways.
Yeah. I think you're just pushing it further and further out. And it, shit, something there. I was wondering.
I think people stew on those problems too. Like,
oh yeah.
They might bring that up, but it's like, 3 months after there was an actual issue. So it's like the whole time it's been brewing, maybe in one of them or both of them or a group. And then,
right.
When it finally comes to a head and that, everyone's just so emotionally drained that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like passive aggressive, right? I mean, it works for a little bit, but at the same time, you're like, dude, you just need to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Like when I took over the business from the guy that owns mine, he's always like, he's the type of guy that like talks trash behind my back constantly. It's just a power struggle. And I don't really hate him for it. I definitely don't hate him for it. Like I wouldn't call him a father figure, but he's been in my corner for a long time, but it's like kind of a love-hate thing. And so just passing the torch has been really hard for him. So he's just constantly trying to work behind me, but I'll just go to him and be like, hey man, this is the way it is. Like I run it now. I'm sorry that you don't like it, but this is the way it is, kind of thing. And he's like, oh no, cool, man. Like I totally get it. He's always really cool to me. And then like he's to the employees, he's like always undermining me. And so I have to constantly like kind of hit him up and just say, hey man, like, come on, dude. We're working for a greater cause here, I
think a lot of times in business, it's hard to lay that line in the sand that says like, hey, this is how it's going to be.
Right.
And a lot of times people want to give everyone the flex of like, oh, I don't want to upset this person like that. This is how, like, I mean, I've had morning meetings on Monday that haven't went well, but it's like, I've drawn the line in the sand multiple times. Like but I know that's for the greater good of where we're going. Right. That it was easy when we're in the basement. There were 7 of us. The communication complexity wasn't crazy high. And just reach around the computer, I could yell it all across the room. And now with 20 people and most people have their own offices and everything else like that, like I talk about all the time, like Dalton can sit in his office watch Netflix all day. I wouldn't know. Like, so there's all these things happening. So you have to draw like those fine lines in the sand of like what a process is going to look like. What does the timeline look? Everyone wants to give themselves all this grace on, well, I think I probably could get it done in 5 days, but let's set it at 8. We're going to set it at 5. Like, we're going to be the gold standard of everything we do. Like, and I think that is difficult for a lot of business owners to lay that out there.
It is,
because they think it's going to offend somebody, or they think somebody's not going to like them. And I tell everyone at MMG, when I make decisions, it's never have a personal, like me coming after someone. It's what MMG needs to do for the greater good of where it's going. is always what my intention is on everything that I do. It's never like if I put a process in place, it's going to change the way Dalton and Logan's workflow looks. Yeah. It's not like I think that Dalton's doing a bad job or I'm attacking Dalton at this, or I may say, hey, the new person we hire is better at this than you. Like, not in a mean way, right. But it's just like there's a lot. Everyone in the office is better at what they do than I am at that thing.
Right.
So it's like everyone's became great at their tasks. So it's like same thing that I've worked with these two on is like when the marketing leg is grown and it's like let people be great at those tasks.
Right.
You don't have to be the superstar.
Sure.
You need to be the person that leads them where they need to go.
Right.
It's not a competition at that point saying, well, I'm fucking better than you at this.
Right. Like have the ability to step back and say, hey, I see it. I see it. I can do other things better than that. Because everybody's built different. They're wired different. That's
exactly.
People. I mean, people always ask me about diet all the time. Like, what do you do? How do you do it? I'm like, what's the best diet? I'm like, there is no best diet. Like, there just isn't. I mean, you could find the search the earth, but everybody's built different. I mean, they're built for different things. We come from different regions. I mean, so what works for me doesn't always work for you. Just try multiple things, and whatever you feel like fits you well, and you lose whatever your goal is. You lose weight, or you want to get big, or whatever the case may be. It's not all the same, So there is no one size fits all. It's the same in business. It's the exact same.
I don't know if anyone has that like special book or something that tells them every move to make every single day. I haven't found it.
I need to find it. Yeah.
Yeah. If somebody does send it my way. Yeah, I'll take a copy. Yeah. I'll pay a lot for it.
Absolutely.
But no, I think that also earlier you were touching on like pushing your body to that limit and working out. And I think something that very much correlates in business is pressing your mind to that limit that I don't think I really understood how far being in business would push me as an individual. And I think your company tries to break you all the time.
Constantly.
And it's just like that press against trying to break you and just being mentally tough enough to take it. And I look at how many times I want to quit, how many times I want to go do something else, how many times it was just like absolutely like to the breaking point.
Yep.
Sitting in the driveway when we're working in the house, and I had a job before that made a lot of money. I never even thought about money in my account. I never thought about our house payment. I never thought about any of those things. And I was like, I want to start this company. And then I'm sitting in the basement. I can't make payroll. I have all these people that are relying on me. I'm like sitting in my truck. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah. And how am I going to figure this out?
And I was like, this is such a stupid fucking move. And I'm like, but then I had to think about all the reasons of why I was doing it.
Right.
And it's like, I always have to try to hold those at that top spot and then try to figure out like the financials behind it. But it's just, it tries to break you all the time. Those hard conversations you have to try to break you. It's like consistently just taking on that fight every single day. It's taxing.
Sure. I think it even permeates into like marriage, dude. Like people are always like, oh, how do you figure out how to stay married? And I said, you said it, stay married. Like divorce is easy. That's the easiest thing to do. The hardest thing is to stay there and look at that person day in and day out and try to be in love with them, right? I mean, that's the hardest task I think God's given us, is to try to find a partner and stay with that person through eternity. From the time that you say, hey, I'm going to put this ring on your finger, you are my partner, I'm living with you from here on out, and we're going to figure out a way to make this thing work. And so that's kind of what's cool about my wife and I. Like she's my yin to my yang, but at the same time, like we both know that there's never going to be the white towel that throws in. I mean, so when you have that security, but I've cultivated that. We've cultivated that as a couple. Like we've both decided, like, hey, we got kids. Like, it's better to just stay in the fight. But people, we live in instant gratification society. I mean, So you want to date somebody, you send them a Snapchat. And I ran into this with a lot of young people that I tried to hire. Like multiple people that I tried to hire couldn't get out of their car to go talk to a business owner because they're so used to dealing with a text message or a Snapchat or you name it. It's the instant gratification where we can order food, we can do whatever we want instantly off of our phone, and business isn't like that at all. Like you got to put in the effort, you got to put in the work, and whatever that looks like, if it's your network or if it's your staying late work until 9:00 at night, like there's things that have to give that you have to be prepared for that not everybody's prepared to do.
Yeah. I think when you talk about relationships and that forefront, I think it's very much too of finding somebody that understands what they're buying into.
That's right. That
I was very clear with Madison of what she was buying into. That I think the whole work-life balance thing is, once again, way too cliche. I think it's way too much. Like, there's a time for it, but there's also a time that work-life balance is going to be a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
That, like, I'm in that position right now that it's a disaster. Like, that whole balance side of the personal side, I'm out networking. I'm out having cigars and drinks and stuff like that. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's not working. I'm like, that's building the network of people that I need to be around in the future that is going to build something different.
Right.
And it's like, she has been very understanding of saying, like, she knows what the end goal is. She knows where we're going. She sees the progress. She sees all of it happening.
Right.
And she's been just as bought in as I have been, right next to me the whole time. And it's not like the night that I come home at midnight after being out, having drinks and cigars with people that I need to be around, that she's like freaking out.
Where have you been? What are you doing?
Right? There's a lot of people that get into those relationships and they can never get to that next step because they can't do any of those things. They want them at 5 o'clock. You're supposed to be out of work.
Right.
But then they want the big plus side that's on, they want this greener grass that's somewhere else. Right. The work has to be put in to get there.
Right. You secured her in that, though, by the way you carry yourself. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's all intentionality. Like, it's being intentional in the way that you treat her. It's intentional about how you treat your people, right? It's all about, goes back to the respect and how you treat people. Mm-hmm. And if you know that, like, hey, when Dane's got you, he's got you. Like, there's no mixing of words. He's not going to let you down. He's going to do what he says he's going to do. And there's just not enough people that do that. And I think we run into that constantly. And so it stems back to just exactly like the people you want to be around, surround yourself with, and part of your circle, right? I mean, you want somebody that you can rely on. And unfortunately, it's a dwindling, fact of people. They just don't seem to care, or it's just, who can we burn to get to the next bridge? And it's just not worth it.
It's crazy when I have so many people come to our office and they're like, how have you built something that you have with the people? Office space is cool. All those things are cool. But what most people are absolutely just mind blown on is the people that are in our walls.
Yep.
And it's like, we hired a new girl this week, and it was it Tuesday? It's like 7 o'clock and I'm still at the office, and she's sitting there just working away, like not even thinking twice about it. And she started on Monday, and she was like, I absolutely love it here. She's like, and she goes, I don't even like look at the clock. And I'm like, but she wants to win. And that's like, she came to Moss Market Group for an opportunity to be great. And it's one of our core values is 300. And it was something that Dre came up with. At first, I didn't really like it. But then as we like talked about it more, it's like, we rise as one, we fall as one.
That's right.
And it's like, we run as one team. And it's like, my deal is why I run so aggressive and I run so confident, because people are like, where do you find the confidence that you run with? I was like, it's because the people stand next to me.
Absolutely.
I was like, I have 20 people that will run side by side with me into a fire and never even question me.
Nope.
But it's just like, I know if we onboarded 50 accounts next week, that everyone in the office would be there till midnight every night, getting the job done, making it happen.
And that's what you
and not be complaining about it.
Right. But again, you've built the people around you from a small group, starting with you, your brother, and you guys have created that atmosphere, that environment that people look at and they say, man, I want a piece of that. And honestly, it's like the same thing for me as Faith. And that's why I completely quit drinking, because I was living on the side of like, hey, I can portray that I'm a follower, but I needed to be able to live it that way. And so I had to quit doing drugs. I had to quit drinking. Like I said, I partied a lot through my 20s. And I came to the point in my life and I'm like, you know what? But I can't live that way. I can't be a true disciple if I'm not living exactly the way that I'm talking. And so that's funny that you say that, because I mean, if you look at the book of Peter, I mean, he talks about the whole time. He's like, hey man, like I have people, like I pray for the fact that people will come up to me and try to get me to help them. Right. So whatever that may be. And I've had, since I went sober, I couldn't believe to tell you how many people have confronted me that I've never met before in my life, but just could tell of the aura that I put off, that I was a soundboard, and I was going to be able to give them some type of, nugget and help through Christ to be able to get them through their day. And I've gone off to work trips and I had people like just reach out to me and just like, hey, I feel comfortable. It's like, I can tell you this. And I would never have that before, but that's exactly it. I mean, Peter basically just says, hey, this is not me. This is exactly how Christ works. Like he works through you. I have his authority to speak on his behalf, but he works through me, right? He's omnipresent. He's in front of me. a million miles. He's on each side of me. He's 360 degrees around us at all times, all of us, not just me, all of us. And so I think that's really important to be able to put that portrayal back on other people to say, hey, listen, this is the way you got to go. This is the truth. You just got to find it. You have to find it for yourself. And until you find it, you're going to still have some struggle. And so, but what, to your point, like you're sitting in your driveway trying to figure it out, but you kept going, right? You kept pushing forward. There's something that is pushing you forward. In my mind, I feel like it's Jesus. That's the way he's always acted. And it's to the little things, like, you know, let's just say like you go to a bathroom and you throw your paper towel on the ground. Well, you got this little thing in the back of your mind that says you should pick that up. What do you think that is, right? Like for me, I know it's Jesus saying, hey, pick it up, man. Like you did it. Or maybe there's two on the ground and you pick up both people's and you throw it away. Like he's looking at me all the time, right? So when I get there, the day that I make it to heaven, I want him to look at me and say, hey, thank you, good and faithful servant. And so it's the little things that I think people miss on a daily basis. It's just, you know, you go to a restroom, you pee on the seat. Why wipe it off? Right? I mean, that sounds so stupid, but
it's like, I think every single day, I mean, how many decisions does a human being make in a single day?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, realistically, it's not our body that we carry that it makes us different. It's the mind that we have. And it's like, I live in the office with everyone and I tell everyone that it's like good things happen to good people.
Absolutely.
Like those decisions that you make when no one's watching are the biggest decisions that you make.
That's right.
Like I feel when everyone's watching, it's a lot easier to make the right decision.
Right.
But it's the decision when you're in the bathroom to pick up both paper towels off the ground.
Right.
It's the decision to help somebody when no one's watching.
Right.
It's the decision that you know someone's struggling to say, hey, I'm gonna make a difference in someone else's life. It was 2 weeks ago. We went to a meeting down at Overland Park. We have these two new guys. They're twins. We'd go to a meeting. It was a good business lesson for them. They didn't confirm the meeting that day. We get there. The guy didn't know forgot, spaced it, didn't show up. But when we got to this big, huge office complex place, that when we get there, we go into another office trying to find the office we're trying to get to. And the lady's like, yeah, it's down the hallway. But she's like, next time I see you guys, this lady's probably like upper 40s, like early 50s. She's like, next time I see you guys, I want cookies. We're like, all right, deal. This is just a receptionist lady that was super nice. So we go on down the hallway, sit there for 20 minutes, get stood up on a meeting. They're bent out of shape. They're pissed. Like, we got stood up on a meeting. I was like, we're exactly where we're supposed to be.
That's right.
And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, we're heading to Crumble. There's a Crumble 9 minutes from where we're at. So we go to Crumble, we get cookies, we take cookies back, and I was like, I pull up out front. I was like, go in, go give this to the receptionist. They walk in, they're gone for like 30 minutes. Like, what are they doing? They come out, they're like, the receptionist is gone. I was like, who'd you give them to? They said, the only person there was the guy that owns the company. And they go, we ended up talking with him for like 30 minutes. I was like, I told you always exactly where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there.
That's right.
I was like, you just have to see the opportunities in life.
That's right.
And most people can never see those opportunities in front of them all day, every single day.
No, that's
so it's like, when I leave my house every morning, like, our dad raised Dre and I is like, put smile on people's face. Like, if you can put a smile on someone's face day over day, that's the person working at a gas station.
That's right.
And Madison, when I first met her, she's like, when we first met, it was like probably the third or fourth time we hung out. We went to Walmart. We go in and the door greeter there knew me in Maryville.
Right.
Most people walk by the door greeter and never talk to him. It was like this 80-year-old lady that I talked to her every time I went in there, and she knew who I was. And like, I walk in, she's like, hey, Dane, how you doing? And we go by, Madison's like, why do you know the door greeter at Walmart? I was like, she's so super excited to see me all the time. It was just like doing the right thing over and over and over just to help out people. Because we talk about
free, right?
It is. And
free.
So many people make decisions. Like, I literally talk on my story all the time, like, stop making decisions based on a dollar bill. Like, you look at all these decisions in a day that we make. How many of them correlate back to a dollar? That 200 years ago, it wasn't that way.
No.
And it's like 200 years ago, if you shot an animal and you're trying to eat, you hopefully feed the person next to you. Like, and now I feel like humans have came so far, but we've went back so far.
Oh, yeah.
It's like priorities aren't there. It's like doing the right thing isn't there.
They don't care about their fellow man either.
They don't.
Care less about
it's like, fellow man. If it was something that, if there was a day that MFG was ever to go down, I'd pull every single dollar out of it. I'd bankrupt myself. I'd give all the money to the people that stood there next to me during it.
Yeah.
I'd say, here you guys go. I'm sinking it.
Yep. Place is on fire.
Thank you.
Get out.
but I give it to everyone around me.
Yeah.
Say, hey, here's to get you to your next step. I'll take it all on my shoulders. I was the one that started the fire. I'll take it out.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really important. And honestly, that's exactly the way I live, man. Like it's funny. I have the lady that I go to. I like crab salad from this place that I go to crab salad from. It's Price Chopper. And I fasted for the month of January. And so, well, not the whole month, but I fasted. I did an 8-day fast. Basically, when I stopped drinking in January 1 of this year, I didn't eat anything for 8 days because I just wanted to pray and just make sure I was like doing the right thing. And like, I knew it was going to be a whole change in my entire life. And like, just being able to I wanted to be able to have God use me to be able to have conversations that people needed, and whatever that looked like. I didn't know what I was prepared for, but I stopped drinking coffee. So no caffeine for the month of January. And then I stopped drinking completely. But
I mean, I don't know if I could operate with no caffeine.
I know. It was actually easier than I thought. I was kind of blown away, but you know, your body gets used to it. But I came back and she's like, I was so worried about you. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, she's in the deli at the Price Chopper. And I was like, wow, you know, she's like, where have you been? And I'm like, well, I didn't eat for a week. She's like, I was asking everybody, like, where you went. And like, were you okay? I thought surely something bad had to happen. But it's like, it's the encounter that you make with people, and you make a difference in their life. Mm-hmm. And it's free. It's easy. It's just carrying the love. I mean, that's all it is. It's love. And that's exactly what Jesus Christ is. Like, he is love. And so you're carrying out the love for another person. And I think that's what we're missing completely. Is like, people just don't care. They're like, yeah, I'm not going to say hi to him. I'm not going to open the door for him. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Damn, you're not going to give me any money. Yeah. You know, like, you just have this chip on your shoulder, and we're all blessed to live here, man. We're all blessed to be breathing the air. We're free. We're in America. Are you kidding me? 1776. You think those people were living the way we live today? Not a chance.
No.
Do you think the Revolutionary War could ever happen again today? Absolutely not. No. You got too many. I mean, if the power went out tomorrow, you'd have millions of people die in 2 weeks because they just can't handle it. They can't live. And that's why I decided, like, hey, I'm going to live a different way. So at 39, I decided I'm going to live not only for what I had lived pretty selfless or selfish my first 39 years. I want to live selfless my last however long I'm here. So, and I think most people don't look at it that way. There's a bigger picture out there, man. I believe every decision is truly good and evil. And I 100% believe that. From you picking up that piece of trash, or you smiling at that person that's waiting on you at the gas station, or you helping them, you engaging with them, right? Like, that just, all that does is breed positivity, and it breeds a better life for them, because now they're happy for the next 15 minutes. Now the next guy may come in and, you know, MF them up and down, but they still were smiling before you got there. And so they can carry that and be like, you know, hey, somebody was actually nice to me today. Because there's a lot of people that aren't nice.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, our world holds more negativity now than it ever has. Like, I mean, you go turn on a news station, the news is never talking about the good things that are happening.
Ever.
They're pushing out all the negative things in our world. And it's
absolutely,
the thing is, there's a lot of shitty people out there. But the thing is, like, I think most people in their mind don't think that they are enough to make a difference, like, as one person.
Right.
And it's like, I feel like when I was in the car space, I didn't have a purpose. I wasn't doing something bigger. And it's like, MFG is something that's built to where it's like, I feel like I'm making a difference and people actually enjoying coming to work.
Sure.
And it's like the people inside the walls. And it's like, now we have the purpose that's big enough that we have the ability that we work with PAL that helps inner city kids eat. Like, we've started working with Big Brothers Big Sisters. Like, we've started working with all these nonprofits, and I see most companies start something like that and they just start blasting their social medias with that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, we don't post any of that stuff on ours. Like, that's not why we do it. It's just do the right thing.
Do the right thing. When nobody's looking.
And it's like, that is moving the needle way further than anything we're doing business-wise.
Well, because you don't have the bandwidth to be able to take care of that. It's the same way I do with, like, my church. I give my church 10%, no matter what. They get the first check, no matter what happens. Every single month, however much money I make goes directly to my church, 10%. And that's my belief. It's my tithe. But there's not no chance that I could ever be able to facilitate and help the amount of people that they can, right? They're feeding people. I go to a church called Kingdom City, which is in North Kansas City off Swift, but they're feeding, every Friday they feed, I don't even know, 150 people. And during COVID, we gave out 2 million meals. I mean, think about that. And we're a small church. Like, we don't, they don't take in a ton of money, but they're actively trying to make a difference for people. And you'd be surprised how many people don't have food, right? That are struggling. That like I was on the board for the Boys and Girls Club of their young, I think it was called the Young Development or Young Leaders. And so we would try to, go help the kids that, mom's working 3 jobs, the dad's most likely not there. And the Boys and Girls Club are strategically placed in like places in the city that are in really bad shape. So they can go there and they can get 3 square meals and they don't have to worry about trying to fight for a meal. There's a place they can go, they got a studio in there. They got a podcast studio. They got, all these different kinds of things where they can go and they can get out of, trying to live like their uncle that's got, pocket full of $100 bills and he's on the corner, right? Like that doesn't help our city. What helps our city is getting these people out of the poverty. And that's not what is kosher with what you get in the news or what you get even in government. Like, they're trying to keep these people under wrap, and it's blatantly clear. Like, they're not trying to help them. They're not trying to make them better. They're trying to make them worse so they can be on the government dole so they can get more money and just continue to bounce your head in front of the person in front of you. They don't want innovation.
For sure. And that's like when I started with PAL, there was a client of ours that actually invited me to a board meeting, and I actually didn't even know what it was. I showed up and it's a police athletic league, so I'm thinking it's like police like basketball league or softball. So I'm like, what we got? Like, what do we do to help out here? Like, we raising money so that they can play basketball more? I don't know. Like, and we show up there and there's like kids everywhere. I was like, what do they got going on here? And then like, it was more connecting police officers to inner city kids that most of the time they're putting a bad rap between each other.
Sure.
And it's like, they're never in the same room together,
right? Getting
to know these people. And it was like, the first one I was there, they were talking about like all their different events that they have during the year. And they were talking about a Pello drive. And I'm like, I look at the lady next to me and there's like probably 15 people on the board. And I'm like, look over, I'm like, why they have a Pello drive?
Yeah.
And they're like, most of these kids don't have Pellos.
Jeez.
And I'm sitting there, I'm
talking
like,
about breaking your heart.
Yeah, I'm like,
I think it opened all of our eyes. Yeah, like what? I didn't know there was that many kids in the city that was their only meal of the day, or that's their only shower, or like some of them were homeless, like with their parents. It's like it's just stuff.
That's right here.
Yeah, that place is 7 minutes from our office.
Yeah. It's like it's just
that's not third
stuff
world.
you don't
That's
know
here.
about.
Yeah, and it's like, when I got there and I actually like started figuring out what was like happening, I'm like, how is this just like swept under the rug so well,
right?
In like a public eye,
nobody knows about it.
Yeah, and I'm like, what can we do to help? And I'm like, all resources we have, you're up.
Yeah,
and it's like same thing with like Big Brothers Big Sister, which I very much like the things that help out kids.
I do too.
I think a 30-year-old guy that's standing on the street corner with a sign that just doesn't want to work or whatever. I don't have like the crazy. I think I have pictures on my phone from the homeless people. Homeless, I don't know if they're homeless or not, but they stand in Liberty right in front of the gas station with a sign for money when there's a now hiring sign right next to them, like literally within like 20 feet.
Right.
And I like take pictures of it, and it's like, I don't have as much like sympathy there. What I have sympathy for is a 5-year-old that doesn't have anything, that he can't go get a job.
Right.
He can't go, like, they were dealt a bad hand and help them get out of that to maybe change their future. Like, when it comes to kids, I will donate. I will do whatever I can to try to help out, because it's to the extreme ownership thing. It's like, you hate to say it's not their fault, but it's not their fault.
Right. No, it really isn't.
And it's like, they have to get to a certain point till they can change it.
Right.
But it's like, you go to these, they have a meal there every day when they come. And then PAL started doing these food bags for the weekend so they could eat on the weekends too. And like, you're having to try to give food to kids that are 8 because they're the ones cooking it. Wow. To where it's like, that's what these board meetings are about, is like, what foods can we give to an 8-year-old that they can cook for themselves?
Right.
And I'm just like,
Yeah, I just floored. I mean, and that you're right. It's everywhere, and it's unfortunate because and it's cool that we, and really Kansas City is a pretty philanthropy. I mean, the philanthropy that goes on in Kansas City is very high for a lot of cities. I mean, we give a lot here. United States altogether. Like if we stopped giving the United States, the whole world would shut down.
Oh, for sure.
But for sure in Kansas City, and you see it, and you look at these kids. And I'm 100% with you, but not everybody starts from the same position, right? The guys that are on the corner, they probably, you always talk about like, oh, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Like, you can just go out there and get a job. But, if you had maybe that guy that had a dad that wasn't there, or had a mom that wasn't there, and they had no idea how to survive, and they're on the street and they're trying to figure it out. I'm a lot like you. Like, that's not the setting for me because I feel like it breeds for a worse city. Like, I think they need to go to places that can get help.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like those people didn't start from the same positions we had. They didn't have somebody that loved them, that cared about them, that that believed in them. I mean, I'm really honestly just believing in people, right? Like that's another thing. Like you believe in somebody, and they can conquer the world. You just got to have somebody believe in them. Give them that chance up. Give them not necessarily a hand out, but a hand up, right? So I think it's super important. But that is for me is on mission with God. Like I totally feel like that's what He calls people like us to do because we have the ability to do it. It's just a matter of putting the efforts to work.
Yeah, I 100% think so. And I think it's something that there needs to be more good people out there. There needs to be more people that just truly go take care of one another instead of always having to reap some sort of reward from it.
Right. We live in a broken society. It's broken. People are broken.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and even like close people that you would have no idea that put on the biggest front in the world are broken. They're just broken because they don't know how to really survive. They don't know how, they're not happy with where they're at. And you see people like I've seen this whole resurgence, even with like young people that are killing themselves. Like I talked to one of the girls in my office, she had, and I don't want to get off like on this crazy subject, but this guy had a full ride to UCM. He was a coder and he had been coding his whole life. And to get a full ride as a coder is apparently pretty hard. This is what she was telling me. But the guy was an absolute genius and he kills himself. He's like, I think 20, 22 years old. And kills himself and sets his phone up to basically completely deactivate whenever he passed. He left a couple of notes and just basically said, I can't handle it. I don't want to be on the government dole, but my brain is not functioning properly. I just can't handle where I'm at. I don't want to work anymore. And so he just kills himself. And I'm like, how selfish is that?
And I think a lot of it in today's world is like, I mean, we're right there with the social media stuff all day, every day is, we use it as a business tool, but I think social media, what it's done for this younger generation of comparison of everything that they do.
Yeah.
That you have 19-year-olds out there that are YouTube superstars out there and they're making millions of dollars a year. And you have some 19-year-old that's in college that has $4 to their name.
Right.
And like, I know when I was in college, I had no money and I was like, I'm sitting there watching these people on the internet and I'm like, how are they doing it? They're running around the same age as me, running around a Lambo.
Yeah.
And it's like Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. It's this big, huge hype reel of everything that's going on. And it's not reality. And it's like, I'm not somebody, I don't compare myself to like anybody else. Like I look at it as like, I'm always competing in the arena.
That's the thief of joy too.
Yeah.
Right? You've heard that.
But it's like
other people.
If Dalton goes out and wins, I'm going to be the first one that congratulates Dalton. I'm not going to compare myself to Dalton like, oh my God, I got screwed, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I want everyone to win, but it's also like, I know I dictate my wins. And I've had people how many people bitch a week on our ads at everything that we're doing? I have people all over the place on it.
Yeah.
I get 10 to 15 people a week call me fat on Instagram or on YouTube. And it's like, I have people talk shit on my truck. They're all rentals. They're all chains are fake, whatever it may be. Like the most off the wall shit, but it's just a comparison deal. And it's like jealousy that like, I feel bad for those people.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I really do. Like those people that are sitting there that miserable at home to try to target me and go after me on all these different levels on a personal side.
Yeah. It's like, you guys don't have anything better to do.
Yeah.
Like really?
And it's like, that's what they're doing. And it's like, what do you think their life really is amounting up to?
Not much.
So it's just like, it's hard when you look at like our society as a whole. It's like people do that. And it's realistically because they compare themselves to whoever that may be.
Right.
And it's sad to watch. And I think it's just going to continue to get worse.
Oh,
I don't think that there's any progression of it getting better.
Right. You're right though. It's a highlight reel, and that's what you get out of socials. And I mean, even like I know friends that I'm like, you know, their marriage is melting down, they're cheating on their wife, you know, their business isn't doing well, but yeah, Facebook is just on point, man. Like every picture is perfect angle, they look perfect, and it's like, and that is just not reality. And I think until we can face that and to try to post some stuff that isn't fun, right? That isn't always winning. That, hey man, I lost today. Like I owned it. I lost. It sucked. It was a hard learn, but I'm going to do better tomorrow. Right? I'm going to get up.
So I've almost thought about having like MMG, like changing our main MMG to like MMG highlights, and then having a MMG like failure page.
Lowlights. Yeah.
Like I've almost thought about creating a whole separate Instagram.
Right.
That's just like all the shit that we take on in a week.
Yeah.
Like I just sit there and I go through like each day, like, hey, here's the top 4 fights that we took on that weren't glorious. This is what we had to do. We lost this account. This is what happened. Right. Blah, blah, blah. We had to fire this person. This is what happened. Blah, blah. And then have it to where it's like, you want both sides of the story. Here's both sides of it.
But it's real. Yeah. Right? And that's what people are looking for. Looking for real. Not looking for the propped up, the highlight reel. They're looking for what's real.
But it's crazy that one of the things that I get the most feedback from are the stories that I put up in my truck when I drive into the office every morning. I have so many people come to me and talk to me about those. It's a minute long. Sometimes the hardest thing in my morning is trying to compress what I want to say into a minute. Right. I'll like be just fluent, like going on something. All of a sudden I look at the timer, I'm like, fuck, minute 10 seconds. You know, like, but it's like trying to compress that, and it's whatever I'm thinking of that morning. Like, I don't even think about it until I'm on I-35, and it's like I pick up my phone and I'm like, what am I going to say? And I'm like, the first thing on my mind, I hit it. And it's just
so good though, like almost like a little therapy session too.
It's really like something I think about, I hit, and then it's like most of the time it's something that I was hyper focused on the day before that was like really heavy on the topic this week at the office, something like that. Just whatever's on my mind at the time.
Sure.
I'll hit it. I post it, and it's like I don't put a lot of thought into it, and it's just they go up every day, and it's crazy how many people are like, yeah, that story actually I needed that today.
Yeah,
that really resonated.
Yeah,
I didn't think of it in that lens.
Yeah, my dad told me a story today I thought was really cool. We got a building out that we're working on trying to sell out, Independence, and it's actually in Noland and I-70. The guy at Volleyball leases it from us now, and my dad called me today. He's like, we got a squatter out there. He's like, I'm going to go take care of it. So he goes out there, talks to the guy. He's like, hey, man, you got to move. You know, like, you can't stay here anymore. Like, we got little girls in this volleyball. Like, you can't stay here. And like, it's one tree, and he's got, like, his bed laid out. And we're like, man, come on, dude. Like, the guy's like, all right, I'll move. He's like, can you give me some money? And my dad's like, yeah, man, what do you want? Pulls money out of his pocket, hands him some money, dude. And he's like, just move your stuff. You know, go put it on the fence over here. I'll give you some money, help you out, whatever you need. Go get a meal. But it's like, you know, it's like things like that. It's like, no, could he be in a jerk? He went out there with his pistol and told this guy, like, get off my property. But he's like, he asked him for money, and he's like, yeah, dude, like, I can do that. Like, that's something I can do, but you got to do something for me. Like, you got to get off my property. Like, at the end of the day, like, I can't have little girls walking in here and you're creeping over here on the side of the building. Yeah. You know, but it's like things like that. It's like, you know, he could have been a jerk, but he was nice, you know? And so you just got to have more of that, because you just don't know where people start. You know, I have a great dad that helped me get to where I'm at today. There's no shot I could do it on my own. I mean, but I was the guy that was, instead of buying cars, I was buying bought when I was younger. So I bought my first house at 21 and just started, you know, renting them out. And then I've got an apartment building, and I keep going, right? There is no stagnant area, but there's no chance I ever could be where I'm at without my dad. So that's why I think about other people and my mom. Honestly, my mom was kind of at home, but she did a lot of the back end stuff, you know, which a lot of moms do, you know. Like, what was the guy that was talking about his wife staying in the kitchen to kick her butker that got all that flack? And it's like, I don't really know anything that guy said that was wrong in that. Like, he's 100% right. He said his wife's greatest job was being a, you know, mom. Yeah. And that is the greatest job.
Yeah, I think that all just goes to personal preference. I think when everyone got so bent out of shape on it, it's like, that's his personal preference.
Sure.
Everyone has an opinion.
Right.
I think that's the greatest thing about America.
Yeah.
Is everyone gets their opinion.
You get a shot.
It's supposed to be the greatest thing.
It's supposed to be. Like, if you told me that you thought that elephants were going to take over America in the next 3 months and we were all going to be extinct because elephants took over some shit, like, good for you, dude. Yeah. Like, cool. Right, do I think you're a little crazy? Maybe, but kind of far-fetched.
Sure.
But it's like, that's your opinion. Like, my deal is, I think in our political space today, people can't talk from both sides of the fence because they get offended. And it's like, I have no problem talking to somebody and having a different viewpoint and still 100% being okay with that person.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to attack you personally. Like, that's my biggest pet peeve is, like, if you're trying to talk to somebody and they try to attack you personally, like, that, I think that is where there's such a huge problem, is because people can't have just normal level-headed conversations anymore.
No.
And it's like, Butker went up and spoke his opinion.
Sure.
If you don't agree with it, that's fine.
It's okay. Yeah.
It's like,
Doesn't make him a bad person.
yeah, it
Doesn't make him a great person either.
Yeah, but it the same thing is, like, you could have a different opinion, and you could have gotten that mic and went up on stage, and 50% of America could have hated you because you had the opposite opinion.
Right.
Look at a presidential debate. Normally it's 50-50. Like, it's half of the country hates one person, half the country hates the other person.
Yeah. Right.
Like, I just look at it as, like, have conversations. At the end of the day, a person's still a person.
That's right.
Like, if you believe your wife is supposed to make a garden out back and grow flowers or whatever, and that's what you think her job should be, and that's your guys' relationship,
Yeah.
great, it works
She's
for you
good with
guys.
that? Yeah. That's
Like,
right.
As long as she doesn't have an issue with it. Like, it would have been a completely different story if Harrison Butker's wife completely disagreed with everything he said. She had an issue with it.
Right.
She supports him 100%.
100%.
She loves exactly what he said, and great for them. That's exactly the way that it should be. Whatever you believe, you should be entitled to your own beliefs and opinions. No one intrudes on each other. Like, that's the great thing about, or supposed to be the great thing about.
I think after more people just get okay with other people having a difference of opinion and just being okay with it, and not letting the news influence them every single time. Because a lot of the stuff they pulled there, they pulled bits and pieces of it. They didn't show the whole thing.
Right.
And then it's like people were talking on it that weren't educated. It's the same thing on most things. Like, news loves getting the clips that are like, oh, they said this. Like, well, did you hear the whole statement?
Right.
Because we could pull a clip of this and say that, hey, we agree with Harrison Butker. And then all of a sudden they pull that one clip and like, oh, they didn't pull the part that they talked about everyone having their own opinions.
Right.
And that they want everyone to have their own opinions, and more people need to have their own opinions and still be able to have a level-headed conversation. They're not going to pull that part of it.
Yeah.
No.
They're going to pull this part of it and make us out to be terrible people.
To get clicks.
Yeah.
Right. It's all about getting the clicks.
And the problem at the end of the day is that people put way too much weight on what other people do. Like, at the end of the day, the question I always ask myself, and this is something that my dad taught me, like thinking about, political elections and like things in the news growing up, is like, at the end of the day, how much does that actually affect your day-to-day life? Right. How much does Harrison Butker's speech affect you as a person? Literally nobody can.
It was super heavy for 3 weeks.
If you agree with it, good. You might be able to model more of your life after that mindset and thought process if you hadn't heard that before. If you don't agree with it, let it go.
Shut it off. Right.
Yeah, let it go. But people get too hung up on these things that have no relevancy to their life, what other people believe, what they do in their homes, how they act. Like, if it's not directly affecting your personal day-to-day life, what does it matter?
Right.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Like, why stress over things that you can't control? Why stress over stuff that doesn't matter to you at the end of the day? I don't get it.
Couldn't agree more.
It's got to come to a head at some point, though. It's like people are caring more, and like there's just more disinformation out there. Like, I mean, how long is it gonna?
I think it just keeps getting worse. Like,
I know, when does it stop? Like, when does it come to a head?
Like, historically, when people continue to drive a wedge between what they agree, it comes to a head when people separate and revolt.
Yeah,
like civil
violence.
Historically, like, you have a civil war and you either separate into two separate entities, or you have a civil war and the one mindset takes over the other.
Right. I'm going to say, if it ever came to a civil war, and this is not a political thing on anything, I'm just saying, if it came to a civil war on two political parties at this point, one party has firearms and one party does not. So I'm just saying, I'm not.
And one party has farmland and one party does not.
Yeah.
Like, if you really want to think about it, like, separate, we'll see who can eat in 12 months. And when you're hungry,
No, but I'm saying, like, regardless of getting into a political conversation, it's people are allowed to have their own. I have a lot of people that sit on the opposite side of the fence as me.
Yeah, and that's okay.
And I will sit there and talk to them. I'm friends with those people. I'm cool with it.
It's okay.
I don't think of them as a lesser person.
You get out of your echo chamber too, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have the same people saying the same thing all day, every day. Like, you don't learn anything about the other side. And there's probably some other sides of the fence that I'm okay with, right? Like,
exactly.
Sure, you want to try to save the environment? I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it makes much of a difference at the end of the day. But if you're cool with it and you want to try to pick up trash, or you want to try to drive a car that doesn't have smog, Awesome.
Yeah, you know what?
Love it.
I would love to have a cleaner city too.
Right.
I'd like for it to look a little cleaner when I drive to work. I'll help you with it. Like, you think it's going to make a difference? Like, cool. Like, I don't know. I think that there's just too much that, once again, it comes down to a personal thing. Like Logan hit the nail on the head. Like, what does that affect you?
Right.
Like, and you have to start separating that. If Dalton likes some, which is funny because it's always on the main two political party runners, but there's all these other people that Dalton says he likes some random dude that's running out of left field that nobody even knows about. They're like, oh, cool. Good for you, pal.
Yeah.
Like, nobody even says shit about him.
Way to buck the system.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody even knows that guy, and nobody knows his beliefs, and no one attacks Dalton personally because he's voting for some random dude.
Right.
It's just the main media news. One party has put all of their resources into slandering the other person.
Sure.
This party's put all their resources into slandering this person.
Right.
Well,
that's all you see.
That's the exact problem too. Is whenever it could be politics or whatever, when you have two sides heading up against each other, like you're trained to just hate that the opponent, no matter what they believe. So you miss out on those opportunities to relay with those people because there are good things on both sides of every argument,
and to open good dialogue about talking it out, trying to figure it out. Like, hey man, I had no idea you thought that way. Like, that's all super important. And you can't do that if you're in your clan, in your group, which that's the type of people we are. Like, humans are like that. We're very much clan people, very much group people. We're oriented with, we stick by the people we know and who we trust and we understand. And just because they're on the other side of the fence doesn't mean, they're bad people. But I think the problem for me is when it starts to permeate into like schools and starts to break down degradation of the family. And I think that's truly what's going on. I think they're trying to erode the classic mom, dad, and kids, because they're trying to separate. Again, I believe it's totally about good and evil. And I think at the end of the day, like, there are good people and there are evil people. And I think that their control is trying to permeate into what we believe is good. And that is a family core unit. That is, a mom and a dad that raise families and create better kids that grow up and continue to live society and breed for their growth in their faith and who they are as people, but just be genuinely good people.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where it kind of gets me, like I didn't want to take my kids. My daughter goes to Catholic school and I'm actually moving her to Summit, which is great because now I got to drive 40 minutes to take her to school. But I'm like, you know what? Hey, at the end of the day, like, if I don't have to worry about trying to, deal with DEI, cool. Yeah. I sidestep that. I don't have to worry about her, going to school, trying to learn about things that I'm not ready to talk to her about just yet in her life. Yeah. Great. It's worth the money for me. It's worth the drive for me. I'll sacrifice what I have for her. Right. And that's the whole thing. So I think that's really important. But as long as they don't start stepping on toes and start changing, laws and rules and regulations like they're already trying to do in schools. Every school district has gone way downhill. We got to get away from some of the stuff that they're doing. I mean, it's
I agree.
It's horrible, man.
Yeah. It's trying to force it down someone's throat, no matter what side you're on. Like, if you try to force your opinion down someone's throat, that's the exact opposite of what we're talking about. That it should be being 100%. Open-minded, willing to listen and communicate with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, we could definitely talk for hours on everything. So that was one thing I was a little worried about this podcast. I'm like,
dude,
I was like, if we were going to try to talk for an hour, I was like, I knew after we had cigars at Oak Ridge that it was like, shit. I was like,
I'm being
this is good. This would be a struggle to try to keep close to an hour. But I definitely want to have you on again.
Absolutely.
So
anytime, man.
It's I definitely think that there's a lot of conversations we can have on a lot of different things, and you have a lot of really good insights from. I thought this was going to be more business driven, but it was much more on a personal side, and I kind of let the podcast just take their own direction.
It should,
and
you don't want to control it.
No,
don't put a wild beast in chains, man.
Yeah, we used to try to control it, and it was pretty shitty. So
we did try to control it for a while.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys too, because I think you guys are doing something really cool. It's fun. It's it's invigorating. It's seeing you guys. You're taking young people and you're helping them out, and they're able to kind of spread their wings and grow. And whether that they may fall, right? But you guys are gonna be there as a group collectively picking them up. I think that's really cool. I think looking from the outside in, obviously I don't work with you guys, but just seeing kind of what your movement and what you're a part of, I think it's really cool. So kudos to you guys. I think you should keep going and head up and just keep. Never give up, right? You can't give up. Like, at the end of the day, like, it's easy to quit. You know, quitters quit, but at the end of the day, like, you just keep going.
I appreciate it. It's very thankful that just been, once again, I've been at the right place, right time, across the right people, kept my eyes open to opportunities, and I've looked at scaling a company on people, not really anything else.
Yeah.
And it's just the right people come along, we pull the trigger the second we see them. And it's like the workload comes, and it's tell everyone all the time, we just stay the course.
That's it.
Course is right. Keep after it. So, any final thoughts?
Excuse me. Final thoughts. Yeah, man. I think final thought for me is just love your neighbor, man. Love your people. Don't be afraid to love on people. Like, I think that's the one thing we're missing more than anything is just being able to, a true man is designed and destined to be a lover and a fighter, but mostly a lover, right? I think you should love on people because we are setting the example for the world. We're setting the example to show other people that are maybe not quite as fortunate as we are that you can love on people and it still be cool, right? And I think you and I share that same aspect, and I think these guys do too. It's free. Be nice to people. It's important.
I love it.
I like it a lot.
Couldn't agree more. It's something that be a good person.
That's it.
World needs more good
hard.
people.
It's easy,
but
and find a higher purpose to fight for, no matter what that
Absolutely.
is. Absolutely. That'll drive you forward.
Absolutely.
But absolutely killed it.
Cool. Love it.
Excited for episode 2 when it comes.
Let's go. 2.0.
But that is the M3 podcast. Thank you for joining. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the M3 Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Want to learn more? Check us out on Instagram at Moss Marketing Group, on Facebook at Moss Marketing 58, or on our website at mossmarketinggroup.com.